In the last decade, the sport of traditional bow hunting has undergone a resurgence worldwide. And for many enthusiasts, the pastime has gone well beyond the hunting aspects. Bowhunter Nick Nydegger has developed a passion for every facet of archery, from learning of its historical roots to learning the skills required in learning to build an original longbow.
The history of archery is simply amazing, and take it from me, who used to think that history was not my subject. Picking up on history and the history of something that you're really interested in is certainly amazing, and archery has shaped the face of the world as we know it right now.
Traditional bow hunters like Nick use only primitive weapons. In medieval times, this particular style of bow was the most efficient and deadliest weapon in a distinct age of archery. The English longbow came into its own as a formidable weapon in the 13th century during the ongoing conflict between the French and English known as the 100 Years' War. Perhaps the most famous encounter was the Battle of Agincourt, forever immortalized by William Shakespeare in his play Henry V. The year was 1415, and with a force of 5,000 archers and 900 men-at-arms, young King Henry defeated a French army nearly 5 times as large. A new pattern of warfare had been established, and the Englishmen and their longbows became a force to be feared. Today, Nick will show us the steps involved in constructing a laminated English longbow, but he also builds traditional bows from other cultures.
This is my rendition of a Plains Indian flatbow. This one's made out of black locust, a common tree around here, but it's also been backed with sinew, which are animal tendons, commonly used in the old days for backings on bows.
Unlike the English longbow, which was a weapon designed for foot soldiers, the Plains Indians used their bows primarily from horseback. As a result, they built bows that were much shorter and easier to manipulate.
Steady.
This belongs to a class called self-bows. That is, a bow fashioned from one piece of wood.
It's real impressive looking stuff. It starts out just as wood. I have a bunch of logs outside, but these have been in here for a year drying.
Each type of wood lends a different characteristic to a bow. For self-bows, Nick uses materials from domestic trees such as elm, black locust, and Pacific yew. But for the more complex laminated bows, he uses a wide variety of exotic woods imported from all over the world, with equally exotic names: cocabola, paduke, bacati, and zebra wood.
This is pretty silly, but I think they're all my favorite woods.
The first step in the process of building a bow is the riser. This is the center part of the bow, the grip, where the arrow rests. Nick begins by planing a piece of zebra wood, an operation that tends to create a lot of sawdust. He then cuts the wood to size.
Yeah, I've been in archery for 25, 26 years, and I really love it. It's got a serious hold on me, and it was probably pretty much natural that I'd start building bows. I've been a woodworker pretty much all my life, and the two things just seem to meld together. And
Nick matches the grains from 2 of the pieces and then laminates the wood together.
Well, most of the stuff that I do is already all pre-sold. It's all custom work, and I'd say about 99.9% of the time I want to go up and say, hey, I changed my mind, you can't have it. And I just as soon hang on to it.
This attitude is easy to understand when you consider the time and patience that goes into each step of the process. Next, Nick traces the pattern onto the sanded wood and then begins to cut it out with a bandsaw.
There's a lot of energy that goes into every one. It's not so much the shaping and the carrying on and everything and all of the work that's involved. There's some kind of energy that gets put in there, and it's not describable.
The riser has begun to take shape, but as you can see, there's still a lot more cutting and carving, sanding and polishing, until it becomes the beautiful burnished product you see here.
I'm now getting ready to put together the components of a longbow.
He begins by laying down a strip of fiberglass, modern man's answer to the animal sinew used by the Plains Indians. On top of this, he stacks strips of maple wood, carefully placed according to the thickness and weight.
Now we can...
The longbow riser is added, and then the top layer of fiberglass.
Every surface it touches gets glue coated on it. It all gets laid in there together and then carried over to a press.
The press is a contraption that Nick has designed to hold all the parts together as the glue is drying. It's clamped down with bolts, and then air is pumped into a fire hose that runs the length of the press.
So it just hooks on there and we pump the air to it.
The whole works is then placed into a heat box.
We're putting this in the box right now to set the glue. It's got to be heated to 180, 185 degrees for the next 12 hours.
Out of the box, you can see a hint of the eventual shape of an English longbow. But once again, there are still hours of sanding and shaping before it becomes a polished product that this craftsman can point to with pride.
This is the same with the tape removed. It's been final sanded, had a finish put on it. Nice leather handle put on it.
Nick estimates that he invests about 40 hours into crafting each of his bows. But for this bow hunter, it is time well spent. Because when hunting season rolls around again this fall, you can bet one of these beauties will be his constant companion as he ranges through the mountains and deserts of Idaho.
It's probably one of the main things that helps me recharge my batteries, that time in the field. That's 95% of it is being in the field and having that time to reflect on yourself and on your surroundings and get a look at what's out there, nature.